Bear down, Ben Johnson just opened a door that nobody saw coming, and what he's about to reveal completely changes how Ryan Poles is going to protect Caleb Williams in this draft. The Chicago Bears head coach said this, and you need to hear it carefully. You can't rule out the draft either if there's a tackle available. We can go in any direction. That is not a vague answer. That is a declaration of war against everyone who thought the offensive line situation was already figured out. And there is a name that absolutely nobody in the Windy City is talking about right now, a tackle with a RAS of 9.1 out of 10, who shares historical company with two of the best to ever play the position, and who could be the smartest move Halas Hall makes all draft weekend. But that is not the only thing happening in Chicago, because while the tackle debate is grabbing all the headlines, Poles is quietly doing something that most Bears fans have not processed yet. There are prospect visits happening at a position that a lot of people overlook, but that position is literally the brain of the offensive line, and the clock on a $5 million rental is already ticking. And by the time you get to the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the most Poles move of all possible Poles moves in this draft is not coming in the first round or the second round. If you trust the Ryan Poles process, hit that like button right now and join the real Bear Nation. We are just getting started. Ben Johnson just said something that should be all over every Chicago sports outlet right now, and I'm going to quote him almost word for word because it deserves that respect. He said, quote, "You can't rule out the draft either. If there's a tackle, a defensive tackle, or a defensive end, I think we can go any direction we need to." Hold on, Ben Johnson, with all the needs this team has heading into the 2026 NFL draft, just said left tackle is still a very real option? Yeah, and the reason is simple. There is too much uncertainty out there right now. Ozzie Asamoah is coming off a serious injury. Nobody at Halas Hall knows exactly when or if he's going to be ready. Braxton Jones is still Braxton Jones. Jedrick Wills Jr. was added this offseason, sure, but nobody's betting the house on him locking down that blind side on day one. So who could Ryan Poles actually be looking at in the draft? The obvious names you already know. Caden Proctor from Alabama had the Bears at his pro day. Max Ihinacker from Arizona came in for a top 30 visit. Those two are probably gone in the first round. Okay, those are on the board, but there is one name flying completely under the radar, fam, and that name is Austin Barber out of Florida. 6'7", 318 pounds. Experience at both tackle spots left and right. And listen to this. A relative athletic score of 9.81 out of 10. That is not a number you see on an average lineman. That is elite athleticism for a tackle prospect in this draft class. But here's what really has me fired up about Barber. He is one of only 3 Power 4 offensive tackles since 2015. 3 in 11 years with a zone blocking grade above 75, a gap scheme blocking grade above 75, and a RAS above 9.5. You know who the other two were? Colton Miller of the Las Vegas Raiders, Caleb McGarry of the Atlanta Falcons. That is serious company, man. Now let's keep it a buck. Barber is not a perfect prospect. NFL draft analyst Lance Zierlein wrote that he struggles to bend and drive at the point of attack, and that power edge rushers can exploit him. His worst games came against Texas A&M and Miami, and that gives you a pretty clear picture of his ceiling at this stage. The consensus has him going early on day 3, and this is exactly where the Bears could be incredibly smart. They do not need Austin Barber to start from day 1. They have Jedrick Wills to hold the spot. They have Dan Rauscher, one of the best offensive line coaches in the game when it comes to developing tackles. You take Barber in day 3, you let him learn behind Wills for a year, you let Ozzie potentially come back into the picture, and all of a sudden you have real depth and a legitimate starter in development for the future. Ben Johnson is not closing any doors, and that tells me everything about the culture they're building at Halas Hall right now. They are doing the work. They are looking at every single option available to put the best possible wall in front of Caleb Williams. And that, fam, is exactly what you want from your coaching staff. Bear down. There's another piece of this puzzle that the Bears have been quietly working on, and it's the center position. Garrett Bradbury came to Chicago in a trade that cost a 5th-round pick. And look, I'm not going to sit here and trash Bradbury. He's a solid player, but you have to read the contract. This is essentially a 1-year rental at $5.7 million. a bridge, not a solution. Poles knows this, and that is why the Bears have been bringing in day 3 center prospects for visits. James Brockermeyer from Miami came through. Jager Burton from Kentucky came through. That is not a coincidence. That is scouting with a purpose. And the list of centers available in this draft class is actually interesting. Jake Slaughter from Florida, Sam Hecht from Kansas State, Logan James from Iowa, Connor Lew from Auburn, Parker Brailsford from Alabama, Pat Coogan from Indiana. There are options here. The philosophy is crystal clear. Bradbury gives you 2026. The draft gives you 2027 and beyond. You cannot keep depending on rentals at the smartest position on the offensive line. The center is the quarterback of your O-line, bro. He makes the protections. He identifies the blitzes. He gives Caleb Williams the time and the clean picture he needs to go through his reads and make plays. Poles is playing chess right now while other front offices are playing checkers. And honestly, that has me feeling really good about where this team is headed. All right, we talked about Barber as a day 3 value play, but let's be real. The beat reporters in Chicago are still all over the big name tackles at the top of the board, and there are several guys who keep appearing in Bears mock drafts that deserve a mention. Caden Proctor from Alabama is the one getting the most attention. The Bears went to his pro day, and that is always a signal of genuine interest, not just routine scouting. Proctor is a physically imposing tackle who played in the best college football conference in the country. The question is whether a first-round investment there makes sense given everything else this team still needs. Caleb Lomu from Utah and Blake Miller out of Clemson are deeper in the board. Jude Bowery from Boston College has been popping up in several Bears-specific mock drafts. All of them have different strengths, different risk profiles, different fits for what Ben Johnson wants to build on that offensive line. But look, if you ask me where the most interesting angle of this whole conversation lives, it's not the first-round names. It's whether Ryan Poles can find his Austin Barber, that diamond in the rough on day 3, that player who with the right coaching and the right development timeline becomes Caleb Williams' blindside protector for the next 8 or 10 years. That would be the most Poles move of all Poles moves. And honestly, I could see it happening. Look, what is happening at Halas Hall right now is exactly what Bears fans have been asking for over and over again for years. Real planning, real depth, real intention. We are not throwing money at the first expensive solution that comes along. We are building an offensive line that is going to age well, that is going to protect Caleb Williams, not just in 2026, but in 2028, 2030, and beyond. The draft is 3 weeks away, y'all. Every single day there are new names, new scouting reports, new visits at Halas Hall, and we're going to be right here covering all of it. If this content brings you value, you already know what to do. Drop your comment below right now. Which offensive tackle do you want the Bears to draft this year? Are you riding with the day 3 value play and betting on Austin Barber? Or do you want Poles to make a move in the first round? Tell me. Navy and orange, baby. Bear down. Da Bears.